Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast. This must be the 31st podcast in a row. I don't know. Maybe we didn't do a rest day one, but it's been a long grind. The Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift has finished. Stage 8 is in the books on a really, really good first edition. And this was 124 Ks. Finishing on La Superplanche de Belleville, we had the harder mountain stage yesterday, smaller gaps today, most likely. The two big climbs were Ballon d'Alsace, 9K 7%, Cat 1, so some good points on offer. And then descent, pretty long flat valley actually, before La Superplanche, which means the gravel bit at the end, 7Ks, 8.6%. But a word on our show partners, Zwift. The racing concluded today, but the finish line is just the beginning for these riders and for the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift. A fantastic first edition, almost, so smooth, went off without a hitch, as well as supporting LRCP. Zwift is supporting the Tour de France Femmes for another 3 years. So thanks to everyone who's tuned into these podcast recaps, watched the stages live, especially read about the race, watched the highlight videos on Lanterne Rouge YouTube channel, because ultimately we need to show support and demand for the women's racing and that it exists so we can all keep making the race bigger and better in years to come. We've been really happy with the podcast numbers. They've been fantastic. A lot of people have been enjoying the pod. The highlight videos on the main channel, Lanterne Rouge YouTube channel, averaging like nearly 100K views a video is really solid. Like that's exceeds some longer, more established races. So that's really, really good to see. And if you'd like to support Zwift and give easy, accessible indoor riding a go, head to Zwift.com for your free 7-day trial. But we had a very different stage today than yesterday, Benji, where it was Van Vleuten clear at the start of the stage when TV started. Today was a little bit, I would say, Roglic Paris Stage 8 2021 vibes. Some really nervous moments for her, even starting with break formation, where I felt like Movistar weren't really in control.
Yeah, I think a break got away initially, as expected on the Côte des Moulières. It's what we mentioned yesterday in the preview of today's stage. A smaller climb before we get to the two major climbs on the parcours, which offered an opportunity for the break to go because Van Vleuten will not go hard on a smaller climb. Now, it's also harder to control on a climb than on a flat section, so that break started creating, and it included the following riders. The rider we saw doing very well for Saint-Michel on the gravel stage. Yara Castellane, my pick for today's stage. Well, we'll see if that turns out good or not. Mavi Garcia, your pick for the breakaway if the breakaway won on today's stage. Roy Akers, Shabby, Leon Lippert, Marcus Grace Brown, Patino, and Thomas. Now, when I saw Patino, I was like, ooh, spicy. We've got a potential satellite rider for the leader, or do you think it's accidental that she got in there while trying to control on that Côte des Moulières?
I think it was kind of just freedom
Yeah.
to go for the stage, maybe. I'm not sure. I'm not sure there was like a satellite rider plan. I think it's always better to be represented than not. Patino, she's very small as well. Like, I'm really not sure how much help she can provide on the flat either, controlling a break. But yeah, it was a lot of what we saw with Vingegaard in week 3. Remember those breakaways where it was Vingegaard at the front of the peloton being like, no one's going to attack, right? We're all going to let this break go and not make my life difficult. It was kind of those vibes for Van Vleuten. She was at the front, sort of pacing a bit here and there. I was like, I don't know. SD Works got Majerus. She's a big engine up the road. Trek as well. The problem was, Benji, they didn't try all week. So with 3 minutes in the books, like, you need a miracle.
Yeah, like you mentioned it. You just mentioned it. Majors went into a second counterattack after the initial breakaway formed with some other riders, the likes of Ottestad, Santesteban, Berthaud, Cristoforo, and Corvar, the last four that I just mentioned. So not Majorus actually got to the breakaway, but Majorus and Ottestad did not actually bridge towards the front completely. By the time that we had an event happening with Van Vleuten with about 57K to go, we're not on the Ballon d'Alsace yet, but she was about to go down, because like Van Vleuten's luck today was not on the spot, or do you think it's equipment related from this point onwards?
I don't know whether Van Vleuten, I remember Contador was very picky about the bike, whether she's very picky. And I don't know whether it was that. I don't know whether she flattered a lot. I don't know whether the bike just wasn't right and the saddle height was wrong or something. I don't know. But she had like 4 bike changes, I counted at least. And it was curious. This is where the Pyrenees Stage 8 vibes really came in, because she does the bike change. I can't really see where all the groups are.
Hmm.
Kopeck's pacing really hard before that major climb, the Ballon d'Alsace, and like, you need, I don't know, 2 minutes on her before the base. Like, if you're vollering, maybe a minute and a half, and you've got the valley afterwards. So, like, you need to gain real time. Kopecky was pulling, and then vollering stopped her pulling, and then Trek started helping. I don't know. It was Madras got called back a little bit later.
I think she
I feel I feel like Vollering was in two minds about whether to really throw out the unwritten rule book, which doesn't exist.
Oh, I'm not sure. I thought it was pretty clear that they were going to chase it down, because I did see, notably, for example, that I think that Majerus was pulled back from that second chasing group behind the breakaway to the peloton to actually start pacing, and not necessarily the chase itself that started doing this. That's at least how I saw it, but I'd love to have seen like the team radio of SD Works at that point in the race, which we unfortunately did not. That would have been
I'll pay for that. Anna van der Breggen being like, Christine, get back! Like Van Vleuten's off the back. And we've got to start pacing. She had a mechanical.
Yeah.
I'd love to see that.
Yeah, exactly. But when it comes to the first mechanical of Van Vleuten, I do want to mention she starts with that yellow bike. She switches to a blue bike. I think it's Bionic's bike that she actually gets at a certain point. I think there's a 7 centimeter height difference from the heights that I find online. So probably wasn't the most comfortable. So it's understandable that if you change to that bike, you're likely going to get a second bike change follow up later. And that's what we also see in this race, because yeah, like we mentioned 57 km ago, mechanical for AVV, we see the actions of both Trek and SD Works to pace in the peloton to keep Van Vleuten behind. Whether it was in two minds or with fully doing it, we're unsure about it. We would like to know the behind the scenes to be able to conclude that. But when the Ballon d'Alsace happens, when it starts properly climbing, it's clear that Van Vleuten is just coming back. She uses Gutierrez, I think, Sheila Gutierrez, when it comes to the chasing behind. She gets to the back of the peloton again. And then not too much later, she has that second bike change from the blue bike, which I guess is Bionic's bike, back to the yellow bike, which was on top of the Movistar car. That's at least how I'm trying to puzzle in the situation at the moment. But hey, it was a pretty crazy situation. We're down to a peloton that includes Vollering and Van Vleuten again. And then it's kind of like a relatively slow Ballon d'Alsace, because like the break is, what is it? It was still 45 seconds, 50 seconds ahead, relatively
It got
large
even a
group.
minute. It got
Okay.
more than a minute at parts. There was, like, for example, Nuviadoma has Royakas, I think, and Ameliusik in the break. She's just trying to defend third. She has no incentive to pace Alsace. Trek can't pace. They have no riders there, I don't think, for Longa Borghini. Van Dijk's dropped. Ludwig has Music, but she's probably not a better pure climber than Nuviadoma anyway. Van Vleuten does another 2 bike changes, and I was thinking, Jesus, like this must be costing her. I think she did 4 bike changes at some point, so I don't know what was wrong. I have no idea. Well, I'd love to hear. But Vollering did attack at the end, and I wondered, like, she tested Van Vleuten on Ballon d'Alsace a few times, and then I don't know if it was, but it wasn't to bring the break back for QOM points. She would take QM eventually anyway. I don't know. It seemed like a kind of a last-ditch effort for GC. She also then got to the descent, brake still head, really pushed the descent very, very hard. Clearly better or more comfortable descending than Van Vleuten. There were even gaps at times, but it wasn't enough. So, and a huge valley ahead. So, I don't know. She tried for GC, but it was kind of a little too late.
Yeah, I think so as well. It's a situation where she can't do too much either with the situation of the race. You know, there's not too many satellite rides for SD Works in a breakaway, for example, that could play a role. If she even gets away on the Ballon d'Alsace, what happens then? Like, it's going to be a 1v1 again, just like yesterday. Who knows? But it was also, we're talking about the Queen of the Mountains jersey there for a second. You mentioned it. She was going to take it eventually, but it's also actually because the Ballon d'Alsace that she might be able to get it from this point on within the race, because she started today's stage with 1 point ahead of Van Vleuten in the polka dot jersey. And because she gets 5 points on the Ballon d'Alsace and Van Vleuten gets 0 points, that makes her advantage 6 points. And we know that at the finish line, I think it's 10-6-4 when it comes to the Queen of the Mountains. So let's say the GC riders would win. As long as Vollering stays 1 position behind Van Vleuten, her QOM is secured from this point onwards in the race. So that's basically done for. And like you mentioned, descent happens, groups kind of reform, and That's where it starts getting interesting tactical for me. That's where I want to talk
Really?
with
I
you a
thought it was
bit.
boring at that point.
I found something super weird. We get to the bottom, and in the group, nobody wants to pace, which is logical. I think Van Vleuten is kind of waiting for her teammates. The others don't see a value in pacing. Canyon has two riders in the breakaway. We've got Trek having still Leah Thomas in the breakaway, by the way, at this point in the race. And then we start noticing that Canyon Schramm starts spacing in the second group, and that Leo Thomas is being pulled back to the peloton to chase in the second group. And I didn't know why. I didn't get it. Like, is your chance of beating Van Vleuten suddenly higher than doing something in the break with Royakkers and I think it's Chabi instead of Van Lusik, by the way? But like,
I thought Chabi and Royakkers stayed in the break.
Yeah, they did,
and
but
kept pacing the break.
Canyon Schramm was also pacing in the peloton at that point, towards the end of the flats valley before the super planche. So I was like, what's the plan now?
Maybe, I don't know. I don't actually have an answer to that. It seemed to me like the two groups reached, they were like 1 minute behind and then 40 seconds at the base, and there was a rush into the base. But in that valley, neither of the groups really had an incentive to push, and so they went pretty slowly through the valley. Mavi Garcia was trying to get the group moving in front because she could win the stage. She, I think, would have won the stage from the break, unless Ewers, I don't know, Ewers did well on the stage, but I don't know if she was in peloton or break.
Peloton, I think.
Okay. But yeah, she was trying to get it moving, but then, yeah, they get to the base of Super Planche, and Van Vleuten, I think Vollering was pacing on the front a little bit, longer Borghini pacing, trying to see, because Nuviadome is in third, Ludwig and Longer Borghini want to put her under pressure for third place. If I was Longer Borghini, I would have done that with Van Dijk's help probably 3 hours before on the rolly terrain, and Van Vleuten just drops everybody and rides away. She didn't look good. Like, I know it's hard to judge Van Vleuten. Like, she doesn't make it look easy. She looked like uncomfortable, but she just rode away and was like, thanks for coming, everybody.
This is Patino erasure, my friend.
Oh,
Patino, the mythical satellite rider in the
I don't know
breakaway.
how much she helped.
It was mythical.
She's like 5 foot. And Van Vleuten wasn't even in the draft. She's riding side by side. I know there is a psychological benefit to it, but it's got to be the most symbolic satellite rider ever. I don't think she helped very much. It was nice.
Oh, come on. It was like the perfect link up. It was the perfect link up, I would say, because it's a point where Van Vleuten gets a gap on Vollering and she links up with Patino. There's a small gap, but the gap is there. And I think that factor can mentally not only help Van Vleuten, but also mentally hurt Vollering a tiny bit. That's how I see it. But you might be right. It might be less than it looked like, but hey, I loved it, and I was like, okay, this is what I want satellite riders to look like.
Well, yeah, I mean, again, like, was Kamna really helping Hindley on Fedaya? I think psychologically, was Wout van Aert really helping Vingegaard? I think it does make a difference there, so, but then Van Vleuten wasn't even in the draft, so I was like, what's going on here? But yeah, Van Vleuten just too strong. But I would say not like yesterday. For Planche de Belfi, it's like a 23 to 25 minute climb for the Women's World Tour, Super Planche, that is. And Vollering held the gap really well. Now, whether that was AVV bike issues, the cumulative effect of chasing after the bike issues, because she had to chase on the flat before Ballon d'Alsace and then on the climb, I don't know. But it wasn't like a complete smack. Well, no, it was still a smackdown, to be honest. But Vollering did a really, really good job. Van Vleuten wins the stage 30 seconds or so ahead of Vollering, who holds really well on this. It's a foul, steep finish to this climb on that gravel finish. Persico out sprints Niewiadoma for third, although they were neck and neck in the sort of last 100 meters. Niewiadoma fourth, holds on to third. Labou fifth. Longoborghini sixth. Ewers seventh. Ludwig had a little bit of trouble on the climb, eighth on 250. Garcia ninth. Lippert from the break 10th as well. Anyone else from GC relevant there? Anyway, GC, Van Vleuten wins GC, holds on, extends her gap, 3:48 ahead of Vollering. Niewiadoma holds on to third on 6:35. Labou in fourth, great performance from her. DSM ride on 7:28. I do think it's a shame that they made the young riders jersey under 23 because, like, credit to Van Anrooy, I guess, but it really was a small pool of riders eligible for that. And Lebu, I think herself is 23 years old. So if it was under 25 like normal, she would have won that. Persico's fifth, the revelation of this year's tour, unbelievable from her.
Yeah.
She looks really, really good. Longaborghini sixth. Ludwig actually drops 2 spots from fifth to seventh. Music eighth. Veronica Ewers as well, another revelation. The American on EF jumps to ninth. Garcia in 10th. So, yeah, any thoughts on the final GC standings, Benji?
Like you said, I'd say that Persico is the revelation of this Tour de France. I think if we think about her, we knew that she was pretty damn talented already. Like Giro Don getting seventh there, we knew that climbing talent was there. We knew the punching was there with her finishing in Bergamo, for example. But to deliver this a top five in the Tour de France Femmes, I don't think many would have given it before the Tour de France Femmes started. She's very young, still 25, and she's likely moving teams. Rumored to be going to UAE together with two of our teammates, Gasparini and Consoni. So Valcar is once again getting plundered at the end of this year's transfer season, if that's correct, which that's crazy to think about. Valcar is so good at getting talent up.
I know. Balsamo was on Valcar,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. I mean, she came top 7 in 6 stages. Like, great performance from her. And I guess, if you send her to, I want to see her in some of the other classics. She didn't do any of the Ardennes races. She did Brabants. She came 7th, sorry. But she didn't do any of the Flèche Liège races, Amstel. I'd really like to see her there. I think she could do something in those
Yes.
races. Crazy rider. Otherwise, Ewers was good, but Van Vleuten's just too strong, I guess. And we can talk stage design. I think it was good. I liked today's stage. I thought today was quite a well-designed stage. I think the flat valley and little climbs before Ballon d'Alsace, 72, 75 Ks of that, did provide an opportunity to get someone like a Majoris Van Dijk up the road, and there was a long valley before, so team tactics could have been employed theoretically on this stage to hurt Van Vleuten, but also she was too good. So I think this stage was really, really well designed, and it's cool to see the yellow jersey win the stage. Van Vleuten, got to be Movistar's best investment ever. Like Annemiek van Vleuten, just doesn't stop winning for them. Any other, I guess, thoughts on GC or this stage? I should say points. Vos wins. QOM, Vollering wins 4 points ahead of Van Vleuten. Youth is Van Anrooy. And teams was Canyon Schramm. I would say Nivea Doma, I didn't expect her to come third. And also, it wasn't just a fluke. She was the third strongest GC rider in this race, apart from Cavalli, etc.
Exactly. I agree with that completely. And when it comes to the top 10, I'd argue that the points I can make is that Labu did what we kind of anticipated her to do after her performance on Laguna Zanaya, for example.
Yep.
Longaborghini ended up coming roughly where we expected her to come in a race like this. The real differences are indeed Nivea Doma doing better than I expected, Persico doing better than I would have hoped for, but it's great to see her do that. Music and Ludwig, I think FDGA, this makes it clear to me that Cavalli would have ended up be the strongest rider on these last 2 stages for FDG. Looking how Ludwig folded in the last mountain stage here. But talking about the stage design very shortly, I think the only thing I could mention is I would have liked the last 2 stages to be the other way around, but I understand that it's more heroic to finish on the Super Planche than in Le Markstein, for example, with the Tour de France Femmes.
Would Cavalli have been better than Vollering? I don't know. We'll never know. I think possibly, but that's just projecting what
No clue.
Cavalli could have done. I think Cavalli would have been better. Could she have pushed Van Vleuten? I don't know. That's another whole kettle of fish entirely. You need something special. My stage pick for the day, Mullman abandoned, I think, with sickness or something like that. Kristen Faulkner, who I expect, I think you might have as well, Benji, to sort of be a bit more prominent in the race. I think she posted that she's been a little bit unwell as well. So I guess not it's not all decisive, that,
Yeah.
okay, this rider didn't show X, that means they won't be competitive, etc. in other races, or this is the be all and end all. Some riders came in a bit sick, some riders came in overtrained, or there's Girodonna. But yeah, great race. And we'll have the full recap of the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift and the men's Tour de France. We haven't forgotten. We're recording tomorrow morning. Will I have my camera batteries charged and fixed by then? Let me know down below. Wrong answers only, letting me know where the charger is. If you could let me know where it is. Wrong answers in the comments only. That'd be fantastic. Other news though, before we get into before we do those fulsome recaps tomorrow, Tour de Pologne, other World Tour race on. Messy sprint, just really messy again. Gerben Thijssen won for Intermarché. They just keep winning. Head of Pascal Ackermann, Jonathan Milan, Coy, Sam Bennett, Damar, Viviani Cantor, Maren van den Berg, and Cavendish. It's just a messy sprint. And the lead outs, yeah, I mean, that was me trying to do Tyson. Is that how you do it? Gerben Tyson?
Gerben Thijssen.
Okay. He's actually not bad. He came second in Vuelta sprint, I think, on Lotto before.
Agreed.
Otherwise, if you do want to watch another race, Circuito de Getxo, which is a Basque one-day race that's on the Sunday after San Sebastian. It's actually a lovely race, and it was the scene of Juan Ayuso's first, I think, professional win, which, I mean, unsurprising because the man he's a young man, but he has an incredible punch. He's a really talented rider. It's actually crazy. If you go and watch last year, there was a group of two Bora riders, I believe Aliotti and Schelling, and they went to the line with Nizzolo, and the tactics were a bit perplexing to say the least. And it's the same finish, a little 800 meters, 7% finish. This year, Kelderman and Buchmann, Kelderman led out. Now, I love Wilco. I think Wilco is really underrated, but he did lead out with his teammate behind and then led out the whole sprint. And I think people don't know, Benji, how quick Ayuso is. He's legit fast. La Molina, didn't he dust everyone in that uphill sprint, the one where O'Connor got up the road?
Yeah, he certainly did. But I wanted to note another thing about this race is that next year the Tour de France is starting. The men's Tour de France is starting in Basque Country. And the 2 kilometers that are at the end of the parcours on this one, Vivero and Piquet, something like that, are both in the first or second stage of the Tour de France next year. So that's a small detail that I like to highlight because it makes it a bit more interesting. It's a bit of a recon for you viewers out there.
And I don't know if there's a Vuelta a España stage that starts in Irún, which is on the French border near San Sebastian, then goes to Bilbao. There is stage 5 this year. Wow, Basque Country getting this area of the Basque Country getting a lot of cycling. I'm actually going to San Sebastian in about just over a week, and I'll be doing, it's not to do Tour de France Recon 23, it's for a holiday, just in case anyone knows, but maybe I get the car out and some Velo viewer and some notes and just do the circuit. I don't know. I mean, I got some fair few days there, but yeah, this is a great little race. It's on YouTube, I think, the Getxo race, so you can go and watch it. And yeah, Ayuso won ahead of Piccolo on Drone Hopper. I don't know if he's off to EF or somewhere. I can't remember if that was confirmed by Benson on Twitter or transfer rumor people. I'm probably misremembering, but he's a really, really talented rider, Piccolo. He was on Gazprom and he sort of bounced around a little bit. He was on Astana before there and didn't seem to have a very good time, but like to be coming in this field, contesting second or third is just really, really good. He's a really talented rider. And sorry, to confirm, yes, Benson did say that he will be going to EF from August.
I think he was also under a lot of injuries when he was at his time in Astana, and that's the reason that he didn't really break through during that time. But a very talented rider, and once again showing it in this race. And that's also the fun aspect of these smaller races, that you get big talent like the 6th rider in the race, Alex Aramburu, also showing themselves. And what a wonderful ride once again.
Is he a pro Conti rider looking for a contract somewhere?
He's a World Tour rider, but he's only breaking through. Okay, he's only breaking through.
I think he broke through, got a good contract, and things are not looking as good. No, I actually think Aramburu's class rider. I think he's really versatile.
I'm his marketing department there.
Yeah, but fuck, like it's not been great so far. I mean, but a lot of riders haven't been performing on Movistar, so probably not his fault. I think he's really good. Anyway, that was the Circuito de Getxo. As I said, We will have the Tour de France recaps recorded tomorrow morning and probably up after that. We will do an all-encompassing Tour de Pologne recap. We won't be doing stage-by-stage recaps, I'm afraid, because we booked in this week to have a week off, so forgive us. We'll also do a post-Nord Vargarda recap on 7 August, European Champs preview, the road race in TT 10 August, then the recaps of that, and Tour of Scandinavia recaps, Vuelta preview on 15 August, European Champs TT recap on 17 August, and then the Vuelta starts on the 19th of August. So that's the schedule. It's a little bit of time off now, and throughout their transfer window starts at 12 o'clock tonight, where the announcements start. A lot of riders have already signed, and so we will do emergency reaction podcast to the big names, and then we will do an all-encompassing transfers wrap up. We have a new award as well, so make sure you look out for that. For the transfers, it's the Jai Hindley LR Take Award for the rider I say is a terrible transfer who will go on to probably win the Giro or do really well. So yeah, anyone that wins the Jai Hindley Award, that's the best award to receive. It means you're going to have a fantastic 2023 and make me look like an idiot. But that's all from us today. Hope you enjoyed it. And thanks to Zwift as always. And we'll see you with the Tour de France recaps tomorrow. Ciao.